Hello and welcome to a new video. Today we're going to take a look at top 10 nerfs for the Open Ultra League as we have the new season coming up. There are also going to be some Pokemon that are going to be a little bit worse this time around. But this time around it's going to be a little bit interesting because actual nerfs we only had two, with Psychic, which does not impact anything other than Medicham for the Great League, and Breaking Swipe, which does impact the Ultra League quite a bit. But of course we also have some Buzz for the leagues in general, which are going to impact some Pokemon, and so we're going to have some very interesting Pokemon, some obvious choices of course, but also some hidden choices are going to be a little bit worse this season. So feel free to leave a like and subscribe if you haven't already. If you don't want to, don't do it, but we can move on to the first one. We're going to have here the Steelix. Steelix was ranked 2 last season. You see always on the top there the last season, basically the ratings for them. Rank 2 there for Steelix, Dragon Tail, Breaking Swipe, Earthquake was their preferred move here, and we're going to see Breaking Swipe is now 50% chance only to debuff. And as you can see, this Pokemon went down to rank 69, which is very nice, but still it's going to be a little bit worse. But I would not really take those rankings as they are, I have to say. The thing is, for PvPoke, basically for the calculations, they're always going to be a little bit worse for Breaking Swipe than they're actually going to be in, like, when you play this Pokemon. Because what's happening for Breaking Swipe users is that they're going to basically always say that the first Breaking Swipe doesn't debuff and always the second Breaking Swipe going to debuff. But of course it's 50-50 in real life, so this is going to be a little bit better than it actually says here. I would most likely think around like rank 30 or something. But definitely a nerf for the upcoming season, and I'm definitely fine with giving people the illusion that Steelix is now bad because I don't want to play against this Pokemon still. It's still going to be strong on the right side. You're going to see now the bad matchups. Basically, before we had already a video today about the top 10 buffs, so if you haven't seen this one, going to be linked in the end card. But we had like all the good matchups. Here we're going to have the bad matchups, which are definitely sometimes a little bit bugged, I have to say, but we're going to take a look at this later on as well. So, let's move on to this second Pokemon, going to be Greedent here. Greedent was ranked 11 last season and it actually got a buff, or like a different move with Trailblaze this time around for this season. But you most likely don't even want to run this one, because if you run Trailblaze, you're going to get completely hardwalled by Giratina, and you don't really want to have this to happen here against you. You also kind of want to have crunch coverage for something like a Cresselia, for something, I mean, Jellicent, you're going to also be fine with Trailblaze. But interestingly enough, this Pokemon got kind of a nerf here this time around, getting up to only rank 29 for this season. Main reasons for this is most likely that Poliwrath is going to be the top meta, and as well that you're going to have Pokemon like Pidgeot going to be way better this time around, more flying type going to be way better, something like a Skarmory going to be way better. So like Pokemon that you are definitely kind of, yeah, want to avoid with this Pokemon are going to be a little bit more common this time around, so definitely going to be a interesting pick. It's still going to be strong, like for most Pokemon that you're going to see here that are not really affected by Breaking Swipe itself. They're still going to have some usage, of course, because themselves they definitely didn't get nerfed at all, but in the meta it's going to be a little bit trickier to play this Pokemon. Next one coming up, we're going to have another Breaking Swipe user, going to be Heliolisk, and honestly this is most likely the most disappointing one for me, because I built this one last season, I was like so happy about it, and it's rank 39 last season, and for this season we're going to have the biggest drop of today's video, down to rank 311. Like literally from being one of the top tier meta picks to being complete one of the worst Pokemon possible is kind of wild, and again, it does not really reflect how it's actually going to be. It's going to be better than what the rank 311 says there, because Breaking Swipe again is going to be a little bit unfavorable for the Heliolisk and the calculations from PvPoke itself, because again, every time the first Breaking Swipe is not going to debuff, and every time the second Breaking Swipe is going to debuff, because like you cannot really showcase a 50% chance like way better than this, so it's going to be still what it is. And here we're going to actually see something funny. You're going to lose against Pokemon that you're supposed to win. For example, the Greninja or even the Talonflame there. I mean, you're an electric type and you're going to lose against a water type Pokemon and a flying type Pokemon. That's kind of embarrassing for you. But like, yeah, still, that's going to be the bad matchups. Is something that I feel like is a little bit bugged at the current time on PvPoke, because I feel like at least a lot of them don't really seem to be that accurate. Or they're just Pokemon that are a little bit better suited for the role. So like, yeah, again, I would not really say that those are the worst matchups that could have possibly have, but it's going to be some other matchups that are even going to be worse for you, like even a Swampert or whatever. I mean, you have Grass Knot, maybe not, but well, let's move on to the next one. We're going to take a look here at Aurorus. This Pokemon is kind of interesting, because I actually thought it would get a buff this season, because yes, you're going to have the worst possible Pokemon that's going to get buffed, which is going to be Poliwrath, which you see here also on the screen, even though it's not in the bad matchup screen for PvPoke for whatever reason. I mean, double weak to counter, and you don't have a, I mean, you have a double kick user, but you don't have a counter user on the right side. It's kind of wild, but as you're going to see here, from rank 18 last season, which I kind of disagree with as well. Like, I felt like last season was kind of useless to play because there were too many counter users around and too many steel type Pokemon. You didn't really have the greatest matchups in general. It got nerfed down to rank 45 for this season, while I feel like it's actually going to be better to play this season because of you're going to see Pidgeot everywhere. Like, Pidgeot going to be everywhere this season, I can tell you this already. You're going to see Talonflame more often, you're going to see the Charizard more often. I feel like you have some solid matchups against those, so I actually think this Pokemon got a buff, but in terms of the rating, it's like one of the biggest downgrades, interestingly enough, but I still think it's going to be a little bit better than people are going to expect for that one. Next one coming up, a Pokemon that I think going to be a little bit worse than it actually got in terms of like the nerf here, because we have here rank 37 Greninja. Main reason for this nerf is definitely the Poliwrath, because Poliwrath is the worst matchup, and for the people that think, oh, I'm just gonna play Aerial Ace now on the Greninja, like you do maybe like 25% or something against, or maybe 30% against a Poliwrath. Like, Poliwrath doesn't give a fuck about this one, but like Poliwrath doesn't really care too much about this one, so we can take a look here at what it is right now. It's rank 49, it's not too bad, it's only 0.2 rating loss in general there on the right side, but I still feel like it's going to be a little bit worse to be played this time around. It's not going to be that crazy though of a nerf, but still kind of noticeable. Minus 12 ranks is kind of a little bit at least. Moving on to the next one, going to be Haxorus. I kind of want to put it in there because I liked it as an anti-meta pick, but we can go like over this a little bit faster. Here we see rank 109 last season. This season, we're going to see a huge decrease to rank 332, but again, Breaking Swipe is Breaking Swipe, and Breaking Swipe is kind of unfavorable this time around for PvPoke and how they kind of showcase it. If it was like something above 50%, it would have had a way less of an impact there, like even 51% on PvPoke ratings, because then most likely would be the first would debuff and the second would not debuff, but yeah, here again, this is going to be a little bit more of a sim non-hero, anti-hero, I'm not sure, but it's not going to be that great anymore. Next one going to be an interesting one though, because something that I guess a lot of people would expect, and I feel like Niantic put a lot of effort in thinking about how to change the meta in a interesting way that does not really is like insanely broken and makes like more Pokemon viable and makes it a little bit more different, and I like it a lot. And I have to say, shouts to Niantic to what they did with the move changes this season. There were like quite a few, of course, but like it's really not the craziest one in general, at least what I thought. But actually, in terms of what it breaks in the meta, I feel like it's a decent meta so far that we have. It might completely be horrific when you actually play it. We are literally just 1 week into the season. But Alolan Sandlslash here goes from rank 46, which was like one of the best Pokemon for the Ultra League, to actually rank 90, which is kind of wild. And for good reason, like Incinerate got buffed. Incinerate users you're going to see all the time. You have Skeledirge being top tier meta, if you saw in the video before as well. You have Talonflame being top tier meta. You're going to have something like as a flyer, like the Skarmory, which is still going to be very solid against it because you have Steel Wing, which is going to be neutral. You're going to have a lot of other Pokemon that are going to be now a little bit more common. You have Poliwrath that's completely going to destroy it, even though it's not even the bad matchups again, because PvPoke is a little bit weird. But honestly, Alolan Sandslash, I feel like it is, of course, it's still possible to play it, but I feel like it is going to be very, very tricky in the current meta to play Alolan Sandslash, and so it's a wild one in my opinion. It's definitely an interesting one here. Moving on to another Alolan Pokemon, this time it's going to be the Ninetales, and Shadow Ninetales was rank 42 before. The downgrade is not too heavy, but it is definitely there, and as you can see, to rank 63, but I feel like it's going to be even worse when you actually play it. You're kind of going to be forced to use Charm anyway because you want to deal with the Poliwrath, but it's not really looking too great in the current meta in my opinion. Like, there are other Pokemon that are fairy type that are a little bit better, like Faber I feel like is going to have a little bit more play this season, just yeah, because you're going to be able to charge very fast to the moves, and it's going to be nice against a lot of the poor meta Pokemon here. Like if you take a look at rank number 2 for PvPoke and rank number 3 for PvPoke, it's the Giratina as well as the Poliwrath both being weak to fairy types, but Ninetales having the weakness to fire, having a double weakness to Steel Wing for Skarmory if people are going to run this, it's going to make this Pokemon a little bit tricky to play, and with Powder Snow you're actually going to lose against something like a Poliwrath as well, especially after the Escort buff, so I would say that this Pokemon is going to struggle a little bit more this season. So interesting enough, very, very expensive Pokemon before, but let's move on to the next one. We're going to have next here the Dubwool. Dubwool is a Pokemon that was ranked 13 last season, which was pretty damn decent, but again, something like the Steelix Con, which would have been a kind of positive matchup for you. But what you also have is now another fighter that's going to be insanely overpowered. and you're going to have Incinerate Pokemon that you're still going to lose against with the current moveset. You might see this Pokemon, if you're going to see it, run something like Wild Charge for Poliwrath, for Talonflame, for Charizard, or even like Greninja or whatever. So maybe Payback is not really the ideal option, but then you're gonna get hardwalled by any kind of Ghost type Pokemon, which is not really ideal. But as you can see here, this Pokemon dropped to rank 61, which is really bad in my opinion. Like, it's really not a usable Pokemon. But yeah, I mean, yeah, you can still use it, of course. It's still possible to play it, but I feel like there are so many different other choices that are kind of Fighting type or whatever, or like pseudo Fighting type, which you can have here with Double Kick, that are just going to be better than this Pokemon. So it's not really the ideal meta for this one, and I would move on to the next one. Next one, going to be the final one for today, is going to be the Golisopod, and you see here, reason for a nerf. I think it is just, like, it's a moveset change that you're going to see here as well, but it got nerfed quite a bit with this. You're kind of forced to run Aerial Ace now because of Poliwrath. You're still going to lose against Poliwrath, which is kind of wild. You're going to have more Flying type Pokemon available, which is not really ideal. You had actually a decent matchup against a lot of the Pokemon that got nerfed with you. So Golisopod, I feel like, kind of maybe lost just its purpose, or like it's like the Pokemon that you kind of wanted to counter, even though there is no direct nerf to it, because, like, yeah, Fire type Pokemon got buffed, so it's a Water type Pokemon, it's going to be fine, right? But you're still going to be also a part Bug type, so you're going to lose against something like a Talonflame, against Charizard, stuff like this that you're supposed to counter. They're just better counters towards it. And so Golisopod seems to be like a little bit of a Pokemon that got nerfed without really having a reason to get nerfed, because other Pokemon got nerfed without even getting a nerf, and this nerfs Golisopod, if you know what I mean. If you don't know what I mean, it's going to be fine. This is going to be it also for this video. Hope you enjoyed it. If you did, feel free to leave a like and check out the videos on the screen. Also the top 10 buffs for the season. I'll see you then. Bye bye.